Mike Owens with Inside Fighting, joined today by John Wood, the head coach of Syndicate MMA, who's hard at work getting Merab Dvalishvili ready for his second title defense against Sean O'Malley at UFC 316, as well as all the other guys and girls under his tutelage. John, always a pleasure. How's 2025 been for you so far?
Thanks, bro. So far, so good. Really, really good, man. It's been another great year. Team's doing great. Everybody's firing on all cylinders already. Geez, I can't believe we're almost halfway through.
Mm.
But time just flies. But yeah, another killer year. The gym just keeps getting bigger and bigger and better and better. We got lots of great things coming up.
Do you keep like a win-loss record across the
I
course of a year?
I do actually. Um, I think I'd have to look at it. It's on my phone,
Mm.
which I can't use right now.
Of course.
But, we're like, I think 40 some fights in, and maybe I think we have seven losses, six, seven losses,
Wow.
something like that. So it's been a really good year. It's been a
Wow.
really good year. Yeah.
Incredible. What are your highlights as you kind of survey the landscape of, as you mentioned, we're coming up to about halfway through the year.
You know, just everything, um, the gym as a whole, the culture, the team,
Mm.
everything has just been really just coming together from last year and flowing into this year. And we just keep picking up steam, man. Like we're really at a point where I get to kind of make some, we get to be really picky and choosy in decisions about who we want in and how we want in. And it's a great position to be in to not have to work with everybody, to not have to take every single person. We have a vibe and we have a culture at the gym that we want people that fit that. So, um, it's just it's great to have all the assistant coaches and the coaches that we have at the gym that are all working together just as a solid team. Like my vision of from last year or two ago, from really wanting to start the change the culture and how just MMA in general is done. It's just very kind of, I should say, loose. Anybody can do it. Everybody can be a coach. Everybody can be it's this. Everybody can start a gym, start a team, have this, have that. I really want to kind of bring some more professionalism, just not for even for us, but for the fighters. So that's
Mm.
something that we really, really, really focused on is structuring more of like a professional sports atmosphere inside the gym. Not just for the sport, but for the team and for the athletes, so that we make it easier for the fighter, and that's something that's really gone on, and I'm really proud of doing that, making sure that everything is running, like I said, all cylinders. So it's been great, and that the results are coming from it. That's where the wins and the bigger fights and more fighters. Another great weekend this last weekend, 2-0. We just had Luana Santos fight,
Mm.
Saturday, and that was an awesome result. And her husband the week before that, Alan Magoso, got a big, another ninja choke. So it's two crazy
Mm.
submissions. So everything, like I said, and they haven't been there that long. It's just great to be able to get people in, have a process of, hey, here's how we do things, here's what we're going to do for you, and then watch it unfold. So it's been really cool.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on the success this year. Let's talk about the fight I mentioned at the start, and probably, I dare I say, the biggest fight that you're currently involved in, which is Merab's upcoming title defense against Sean.
Yeah.
Now, in some ways, it's probably, I would assume, whilst it's easier to game plan for an opponent you've already prepared for, it's also more difficult in some ways. How much does training camp differ from the first fight?
Training camp really doesn't differ anyway, any different way. Rob is always in there doing what he does every single day. Fight, no fight, camp, no camp. Like he's not a guy that you have to like reel him into the gym.
Mm.
He goes maybe after his fight, goes back home or does his little, he maybe shows up some events and does some UFC stuff, but he is in there grinding. So every day is pretty much the same when it comes to doing, the standard, hey, here's what we're going to do, or, here's the process and we're doing it. It's just we tweak a little of of the things that we're doing, obviously. This will be our first rematch, and I've said before that the element of surprise, in a rematch is gone. So the person's felt you, the person kind of knows what to expect a little bit.
Mm.
So but also we do too. And being on the winning side of it, it would be easy to say, well, we don't really have to change anything, but obviously O'Malley, he's a great fighter. His coach Tim, they're going to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out what they did wrong or what they can do better. And then that's my job. And I find it quite fun to be able to, you know, look at it from that perspective. If I was them, what would I do to try to change this to have success? So it's my job to kind of figure out and counter coach. Obviously, that's every coach is trying to figure out what the other person would do, but where they think that they're going to be successful and try to shut that down. So the process of how we do things is pretty much everyday normal stuff. What we're going to do within that process is what changes. And the cool thing is for us is one thing I really focus on is the fighter, our fighter, making sure that my guy or my girl, whoever goes in that fight, is ready for whatever happens in that fight. So if O'Malley decides to come out here and try to become a D1 wrestler and counter wrestle and wrestle Merab, we're ready for it.
Mm,
There's never just a, hey, we're going to fight this guy and we're just going to strike and we're going to do this and we're looking for takedowns. We have to make sure that we know that he might try his hardest, which I expect, and fight harder than he's ever fought before to not get taken down. And so maybe we don't get him down, for the first 2 rounds or 3 rounds. Who knows? So we got to be ready to strike. So it's just always kind of working backwards and going back to saying, okay, if we're not capable of doing what we want to do here, then we're going to do this, and this is what we want to do. And if this works, then it'll probably go back to this. So it's always a fun process, and that's the great thing I love about MMA is that it's never the same. Every fight, every new camp is a different challenge to figure out. And with all that being said, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that we come out with that belt again and hand raised. They can do whatever they want to do and however they want to do it and try to improve and bring in. But again, it's cliche. I say it all the time for Merab, but he is just still getting better. Every camp, Merab is one of those guys that downloads information every camp, every fight, every practice, and uses it the next practice and gets better and gets better and gets better. And there's been a lot of like just jaw dropping, like even from the team, because we have our sparring. He spars, Merab spars more than anybody, but
mm.
it's we have our set cage times where everybody's watching and everybody's you know they have their time in the cage where we're coaching them, and it's just everybody in this camp is just like mind blown how much better Merab is. So I expect a really good performance and a fun one.
Talking about the training room, you may or may not have seen this, but there's a lot of rumors swirling around after Merab posted the photo with a big cut under his eye. Can you just dispel the rumors that the fight is still on and that is hand in hand with training camp?
Yeah, if people don't understand this by now, one, Merab loves to post shit to get everybody riled up, and I'm sure Dana's probably sitting there going like this
Yeah.
again. It literally was like a fingernail scratch. It was a
Mm,
fingernail scratch that he got like poked and it just like went in.
mm,
Blood was trickling down. It looked like cool photos, so he posted them. But there is no cut. There really is no cut. Everything's fine. And like I said, this is typical Merab. He loves to get everybody going and fired up, and he just doesn't care. Like you could hit that dude in the head with a baseball bat and split his skull open, and he's going to tape it together and show up for the fight. He doesn't care, and probably he'll probably post pictures of it,
yeah.
as it happened. Like he's a madman when it comes to that stuff, and he's so locked in and focused on what he's planning to do and what he's going to do that he doesn't care about all that kind of shit. So yeah, everything is fine. It was, like I said, I thought they were actually looked like pretty cool photos, but it literally was I mean, micro scratch that just bled. So that was a fun one. As soon as I saw that, people started hitting me up. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God. But that's typical.
Probably says more about MMA fans than it does about you, Merab, dare I say. Um, when you reflect on the first fight, it's considered a dominant victory, and it is a dominant victory, but O'Malley has pockets of success, particularly in that last round, last minute or so. When you reflect on the 25 minutes in the first fight, without giving too much away, of course, what do you feel like are the key improvements that Merab can make?
I mean, obviously, I've gone on record plenty of times and saying my goal is to get him to inflict damage. My goal is to get him to finish fights. My goal is to get him to help him, get submissions. Because at the end of the day, we all want to have finishes. His style, coming up, and very honestly, we're still developing his style.
Mm,
When we have a pretty, the framework of being the chaotic madman is something that's not going to change. What we do inside of that framework and how we change, the dynamics of his footwork and striking and the things, and we're adding things. Like I said, I honestly would have, if you had asked me, a couple of years ago, that we would be able to do the things that we're doing with Merab right now. I would have never guessed it because he, like I said, he just grows at such an exponential rate so fast. He's just his footwork is now underneath him. So, the biggest thing is everybody before the narrative. You don't hear it anymore. Of, oh, Merab was chinny. Merab was this. Merab got hit and rocked like one time in a fight. I think that was by
Mm.
Moraes. The rest of them just kind of looked all wonky because his feet were all over the place. Now we fixed a lot of those things, so now we're able to move into such a different array of tools and skill sets for him. So obviously the striking is getting better. I mean, his vision and timing, he probably has some of the best vision and timing that I've seen in a long time with anybody. And being in the room, like I said, from the onlooker, it might not look like it, but you know, look at how he's really not getting any damage inflicted on him. And it's not just because it's wrestling. When he's standing up with these guys, they can't hit him. And that's something that, like, that is a natural ability that now we're unlocking because of, like I said, the footwork issues. But the striking is ever improving. What he's doing on the ground right now, I think you're going to see guys that when he does get the takedown, and he will, you're going to see a different kind of control, a different kind of damage, a different kind of, threat level that's going to even exhaust people even more.
Mm.
So I do think we're on the like the verge of those finishes starting to come now.
What's obviously know Merab very well. What's his ultimate goal in the sport? Like now he's a defending champion. We've talked about this a couple of times about. I remember you said to me prior to the Umar fight, if Merab wins this fight, he should be considered the bantamweight GOAT. And that
And everybody
conversation,
got on me about that one,
they
and now
certainly
everybody
did.
says it. Now it's
Yeah, and now you look like a genius. But it doesn't feel like that debate or that conversation's really started yet, which I'm kind of surprised at when you look at his last five, six fight run. So you know Merab a lot better than 99% of people. What is his ultimate goal in the sport?
I think to be one of the most dominant champions there has been. I think he, out of anybody right now, he has the most potential to hold on that belt longer than anybody. There's obviously some new people and new faces coming into the mix,
Mm.
and it's one
See what you did there?
into the thing where we're always going to have as a champion, you're always fighting the next best guy. And right now, we beat those next best guys, but it's just a different type of thought process where they're going to come at us differently. So we'll probably end up with a couple more rematches, I guess. And then we've got Sandhagen floating out there, and now Patchy potentially, we'll see what he does. But I think holding on to that belt and becoming one of the most dominant defending champions there is or has been, because he loves to fight. He's in that process. This is all he loves to do. He enjoys his life, but he really does love the process of training. Sometimes that changes over years and over time, but I think, he's still young and he's got that drive. And the good thing about Marab is we're still learning and growing. So it's interesting to him. He
Mm.
hasn't, we're I would say, dare I say, like 50-60% of his MMA growth factor, of what we're downloading right now. And I think that excites him. I've never seen somebody at the level he's at come in and just the willingness to learn, and he's still learning and growing, and so he's excited every day. Every time he spars and learns and hits a new move, if he takes somebody down, hits something with somebody, something we worked on, he always looks over at me and just gets this big smile and sticks his tongue out. It's like, oh my God, he's so
Mm.
excited all the time. So I really think that, it's going to be a long time before he burns out or before he gets, like what we've seen in the past with fighters that, the dominant statures or the Anderson Silvas or the GSPs that kind of hit that lull and just kind of go through the motions. So I really think he has a chance to break some records.
And then a couple of weeks after Newark, I assume you'll be on a flight to Azerbaijan for Khalil Rountree's main event against Jamahal Hill.
Yeah, we got Nazim and Khalil on
Of
that one.
course, yeah.
So, it's going to be a crazy June. I think we have a fight every weekend in June. The debate is I know that Merab's going to go from Georgia, or he's going to go from Jersey to Georgia, and I might just jump over there for a couple days with him because I guess Azerbaijan and Georgia are backed up to each other. So
Mm.
just float over there. But yeah, it's going to be a crazy big June. Two main events, title, and one probably that has some title implications on it. So it's yeah, I didn't even I I've heard the name and of Azerbaijan, and when it kind of came up, I didn't know where it was at. I didn't know what it was. Nazim Sadaka, I can't. I'm not even trying to butcher his name right
Mm,
now, but he's from there, so he's on the
yep.
main card. I didn't know. He was the first one who told me. He's like, hey, there's a card coming up in Azerbaijan. I was like, where's that? What is that? He's like, that's where I'm from. I'm like, okay, cool.
Mm.
So, it turned out we have a fighter from there. So it's going to be a big go, I think, when we get over there. And obviously Khalil in the main event. So
Do you think that's the right next fight for Khalil?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Hill is obviously still a big name, former champion. I think it's a great fight that puts us right back in the top in the talk of title. And I think we're after what he did with Pereira and the skill set that he has, Khalil's is a natural finisher. He goes out there to finish fights.
Mm.
That's something that everybody always likes to see and is exciting. So, with all those things, I think that we go out there and have a great performance against Hill. I think we're right back in the talks.
I love it. Before I let you go, John, I wanted to turn the conversation away from your fighters and away from some of the stuff that you're doing because I wanted to get your thoughts on the UFC 317 main event between Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira for International Fight Week. How do you see that fight playing out? And maybe give me your breakdown of the main event for IFW.
Both great fighters, both obviously great skilled fighters. I think, Ilya is at the top of his game and has power that, you know, we haven't seen. Maybe some of the most powerful striking and clean striking in the UFC right now. Oliveira is a legend already. He's been in so many wars and so many big fights and so for so long. The guy's still got it, but to be able to compete with Topuria, we've seen over the years that Oliveira has tendencies to get hit. He
Mm,
has tendencies to be hit and be hit early on. And, one of his biggest attributes is he's tough and he hangs on and he ends up catching people when he does get hurt. I don't know that you can do that with Topuria. I don't know that with Ilia that if he hurts you, I think he's going to finish you, and that's probably where I would lean towards is Ilia. Potentially finishing that fight within the first couple rounds just by knockout. There's nothing that we've seen. Early in his career, he dealt with a couple tough fights, but where he's at right now, the mentality that he has, the strength in his mindset is there. That dude believes in himself,
mm.
and he's got all the skill sets and the power and the thing to believe in himself and should believe in himself. So I think you're looking at Taporia with his hand raised in that one.
I love it. John, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for giving me some of your time, and I wish you the best of luck in all of these fights. There's too many to name, as I often say. But thank you as always for your time. We look forward to seeing you
Anytime,
back
bro.
in the
I
corner soon.
appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Anytime.